The US House of Representatives has voted to impeach President Donald Trump for the second time, marking a first in US history. Healthcare workers in Peru began an indefinite strike this Wednesday to demand better working conditions. Rebel forces in the Central African Republic mounted their closest attack yet to the capital Bangui this Wednesday, before being pushed back with the loss of a peacekeeper, according to the United Nations. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. The US House of Representatives has voted to impeach President Donald Trump for the second time, marking a first in US history. After a debate, the resolution on impeachment passed with 232 votes in favour and 197 against. 10 Republicans voted with House Democrats in favour of the removal of Trump from power. The impeachment resolution charges Trump with a single article, incitement of insurrection, for his role in last week's deadly Capitol riot. The Senate will now have to conduct a trial, but this isn't expected to happen until after Trump actually leaves office. Incoming Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is hoping to pursue a half-day schedule to conduct the trial part of the day and other business the rest of the day in order to avoid the hold-up in the Senate that occurred during the last impeachment trial and allow for the vote on President-elect Joe Biden's cabinet nominees and legislation to address the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as relief for US residents suffering the economic crisis. And to discuss the impeachment and the situation in the United States in the wake of the unprecedented attack on the Capitol last week, we now welcome Enrique Davis, political analyst and author who's joining us from Atlanta in the state of Georgia. Enrique, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation, and I am happy to be here with you, even though the circumstances are not as we would like to.
Enrique, the House of Representatives has recently voted to impeach Donald Trump for the second time, making him the first president in US history to be impeached twice. What does this mean in terms of the last few days of the Trump administration?
I think we all knew that President Trump was going to leave office in the coming days because his term ends on January 20th. But I think one of the issues is the way he is leaving office. It's going to be in all the books in history. This is what we're going to remember of Donald Trump, that he was impeached twice, that he is the first president in the United States to be impeached twice, that there were Republicans who voted for the impeachment. And even though the House is going to pass the articles of impeachment to the Senate, and they're going to receive them until the 19th, and he's not going to be in office after the 20th, he still can be voted to be removed from office, and he could be banned from ever running again for any federal position.
Enrique, the attacks on the US Capitol sparked outrage both within the United States and at the international level, as it shook the establishment to its core. What's been the reaction among progressive forces in the United States?
Well, I think it has shocked everybody because what the United States stands for is democracy. This is what it has been telling the world for over 200 years. And when you see domestic terrorism take place within the Capitol, with U.S. citizens actually going into the Capitol and taking over it, this is basically a big stain on the U.S. as a democracy. And this is, I think, the main reason why Democrats brought up the articles of impeachment, because as they have said, they need to defend the U.S. Constitution from foreign and domestic terrorism. And even though they know President Trump is going to leave office on the 20th, they need to make it noticed that they will not stand up for anything that goes like this.
Enrique, what do you think we can expect from the Biden administration in terms of tackling the huge divides in US society that we're seeing and the increasing threat of white supremacism and armed fascist groups like those that took over the Capitol last week?
One of the things that that we should understand right now is that institutions are more important than one single person. And we see that institutions just like the FBI or the Department of Justice are already investigating what happened, who has been there, and they are making arrests. It's not going to be an issue that it's going to be a responsibility on President Biden. He's going to have to take care of his campaign promises. He's going to have to start looking into getting more people vaccinated due to COVID, trying to get the economy stimulated again. And he's going to start looking at other things. The Department of Justice and other branches of government are going to have to look into what happened on January 6th. So that is, I think, the most important issue in this coming days, that its institutions are more important than one person. And each institution, each person, just like President Biden, or soon to be President Biden, he's going to have to start looking into his responsibilities and let other branches of government and other institutions take their course.
Enrique Davis, political analyst, speaking to us from the United States. Thank you so much for joining us and for offering your insight. Thank you. Healthcare workers in Peru began indefinite strike action this Wednesday to demand better working conditions in the sector. The Medical Federation called for a strike after the government failed to meet the required demands during a round of negotiations. Health professionals are demanding more public investment in the health sector, which currently lacks basic equipment, PCR testing materials, oxygen pumps and beds in intensive care units. Doctors have warned that the lack of medical supplies amidst the rapid growth in coronavirus infections will lead to the collapse of the health system. In Chile, the Women's and Gender Equality Commission of the Chamber of Deputies this Wednesday begins debates on a bill that seeks to decriminalise abortion up until the 14th week of pregnancy. The bill to be discussed aims to modify Article 119 of the Constitution in order to legalise the termination of pregnancy by a doctor in all cases. According to current law, abortion is only permitted under 3 circumstances: when there is risk to the life of the mother, when the fetus is unviable, or when the pregnancy resulted from rape and no more than 12 weeks of gestation have passed. According to surveys conducted in the country, 56% of Chileans say they agree with abortion in some circumstances, and 27% believe voluntary abortion should be completely legalised. And we're going to take a short break now, but we'll be right back with more. And we're continuing with former president of Bolivia and leader of the movement towards socialism, Evo Morales, who expressed his gratitude to the Bolivian people for their demonstrations of affection amidst his recovery from COVID-19. On his Twitter account, Morales said he was grateful to so many people constantly concerned about his health and well-being. He expressed thanks for so many expressions of solidarity from the Bolivian people, while noting that he feels very well despite the infection. Cuba's National Director of Epidemiology, Dr. Francisco Duran, this Wednesday presented an update on the number of new COVID-19 cases confirmed in the last 24 hours.
Up until yesterday, there are 6,726 patients admitted in hospitals, out of which 2,339 have symptoms of the disease. These 2,339 patients have not yet been confirmed with COVID-19, and 1,009 are under surveillance. 3,378 active cases are currently admitted in hospitals. This is the highest number of admitted COVID-19 patients in our country.
And Dr. Duran also reported on the number of COVID-19 related deaths in the last 24 hours.
We humans have known how to overcome difficult moments. We have overcome and kept favorable markers, and we have no doubts that with the involvement of all the people, we are going to succeed. Today, we again have to mourn the death of 3 patients yesterday.
This Wednesday, Estonia's Prime Minister Jüri Ratas resigned from office amidst a corruption scandal within his party. The Estonian leader assured that with this move he intends to assume his political responsibility and thus open up the possibility of an investigation against him in the face of the accusations. Ratas pointed out that he took the decision in consultation with the board of directors of the Estonian Centre Party as well as his closest colleagues. The politician said he's convinced that the investigative bodies will carry out their work professionally and that he has never approved of any action that undermines justice or the sense of fairness. The Iranian armed forces began military exercises this Wednesday in order to test land, air and submarine defence capabilities. The Iranian military high command attended the armed training with manoeuvres taking place in the coastal strip of Makran. During the exercise, the Navy fired missiles and torpedoes towards the northern region of the Indian Ocean, and forces flew over the sea area with drones. During the operation, the Navy was provided with 2 warships capable of transporting up to 7 helicopters and a frigate for launching missiles. At least 23 Syrian soldiers and allied militia died in an air attack carried out by Israeli forces this Wednesday. The Israeli government's bombing of Syria took place in the city of Dar al-Sar, near the Iraqi border, leaving some 28 people wounded. The attack against Syrian army warehouses is the 4th in less than 3 weeks and the 2nd of 2021. Damascus authorities had previously repelled several missile attacks fired from the occupied territories by the Israeli regime, which continues to carry out these actions under the pretext that the presence of Iran in Syria represents a threat to Israel. Rebel forces in the Central African Republic mounted their closest attack yet to the capital Bangui this Wednesday, before being pushed back with the loss of a peacekeeper, according to the United Nations. Combined forces of the Central African Republic military, Russia and the UN repelled an attack by the group Coalitions of Patriots for Change on the outskirts of the capital, which saw residents flee the affected suburbs for the city centre, which is considered safer. The latest attack comes after rebels launched an offensive vowing to march on the capital ahead of last month's presidential election in what the government has called an attempted coup. The UN Secretary-General and the Security Council strongly condemned Wednesday's attack and called on all parties to bring an end to the violence and engage in constructive dialogue. The UN Forces spokesman said that several rebels were captured and more than 10 were killed. Rwandan and Russian troops were deployed last month to support the government under bilateral accords.
When I woke up around 5 a.m. in the morning, I too heard gunshots and I was scared. I told them to wait for me so I could see things, and I told them I would find them. Then they left without turning back. So far, I do not know where my family is, how they are going to live, if they have run away, how they are going to live. And with everything happening, we who sell stuff to be able to eat. That's how we make a living. We sell things. But with all that's happening, how can we sell things? How can we find something to eat in these times? We do not want this.
A landslide struck the village of Sumedang in West Java Saturday night, followed hours later by a second that engulfed rescuers digging for survivors. The death toll has doubled from the 11 deaths reported on Sunday. A Bandung Rescue Agency spokesperson said 19 residents are still missing, including half a dozen children. Fatal landslides and flash floods are common across Indonesia, where seasonal downpours are frequent and relentless. The country's disaster agency estimates that 125 million Indonesians live in areas at risk of landslides. Japan expanded a coronavirus state of emergency to 7 more prefectures on Wednesday, affecting more than half the population as infections spread across the country.
I'm sorry for causing stress that you have to live under constraint, but we have to overcome this adversity. I kindly ask for your cooperation. A new type of the variant has found from the people who come back from Brazil. I'm highly concerned as such cases have been confirmed one after another, amplifying the sense of apprehension among Japanese citizens. To save the lives of people and to take all possible precautions, I will suspend fast-track business and resident entry permits temporarily during the state of emergency.
The Deputy Director of the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention announced Wednesday that the country has tightened measures to prevent any large-scale resurgence of the COVID-19 epidemic.
At present, China is witnessing local outbreaks and sporadic outbreaks in many places, which reflects the huge pressure on epidemic prevention and control caused by import of cases in the wake of worsening virus situation worldwide in the winter. After over a year's fight against the COVID-19, we have gained better understanding of the novel coronavirus. The Joint Prevention and Control Mechanism of the State Council has issued a set of relevant prevention and control measures which provides for timely detection of the virus and immediate actions in response, so as to prevent any large-scale spread.
A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson stressed on Wednesday that China firmly opposes any form of official exchange between the United States and Taiwan.
Recently, my colleagues and I have repeatedly stated China's solemn position on the planned visit to the Taiwan region by U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Kelly Craft. I would like to emphasize once again that China firmly opposes all sorts of official exchanges between the U.S. and the Taiwan region. This position is consistent and clear. China urges the U.S. to abide by the One China principle and the provisions of the three Sino-U.S. joint communiques, stop all official and military contacts between the U.S. and Taiwan, and stop going further down the wrong and dangerous road. China will take all necessary measures to firmly safeguard its sovereignty and security interests.
Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered to start mass vaccination against COVID-19 this Wednesday. The Russian head of state called for the mass vaccination program to begin next week during a meeting with cabinet members. Putin also described the Sputnik V vaccine developed by the Gamaleya Epidemiology and Microbiology Center as one of the best in the world after showing more than 90% efficacy. The Russian president also called for thorough investigations in the face of the emergence of new strains of the virus. The chairman of Uganda's Electoral Commission confirmed that voting materials have been dispatched to districts and cities across the country and called on all stakeholders to act in a tolerant and peaceful manner as the country heads to the polls this Thursday.
In preparation for the general election 2021, the Commission has acquired biometric voter verification machines, which will be used to verify voters who present themselves at polling stations on polling day. The Commission has completed the dispatch of all the materials required for tomorrow's elections to the districts and cities across the country. Now, tomorrow, tomorrow, the polling kits or materials will be delivered to the respective polling stations so that polling commences at 7 a.m. countrywide.
And we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.